bring the meeting to order. May I have a first? Lisa, second? Bill, all in favor? All right. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have 4 budget presentations this evening, starting with Goosehill Primary School is first up.
Is this on, Ariana?
We're having
To press the button.
technical-
Is it to press the button?
Do we have printouts?
No, only digital.
Oh, yeah, press the button on the side.
Yeah.
Power button. That's what was happening today. That was in here.
It was good yesterday too, right?
Yeah, yesterday we couldn't even get his book out.
Joe, what's going on?
It'll work. It's a magic.
Does someone maybe tap it from up there, maybe? I don't know.
Is there
Slide
another,
it to slide
you know
one.
what, maybe there's the other.
Take out the revision history thing and see.
This works. Not even kidding.
It's like going automatic.
Turn off the keyboard.
Turn it off. I would just start. It's still going, the keyboard's off. Good. I know. Hey. Either off or on.
She doesn't even move it. I think it was. This one. So it's just automatically changing.
I think you go out, maybe we just do out of this, and then we just do the manual.
Yeah.
Just X out the revision history. Maybe have that. Can't get it. Oh, maybe.
Okay. We'll use this. A lot of people present this way.
Yeah, this is fine. You're like,
Actually, Rihanna, I don't think we need, Rihanna, I don't think we need a speaker on here at all because I think everyone can hear us, like this speaker.
Right, but the mics, this mic just keeps dying, starts to drop
Do you want
out.
this mic like you did last time? We can do that.
yeah, we have an extra
It's
one
in my
right there.
budget to fix the board equipment.
Good.
Well,
Do you want
So
your?
this is a setup?
Oh, she has one, okay.
So you get real good equipment?
This is terrible, right?
I'm gonna turn this mic off. So we can-
Next thing you know,
We'll just
dinner's
not like the other night at the.
lay everything on budget.
That's why I've done the chair.
Oh, here.
There's no sound here, I turned it off because everyone will hear you here.
Oh, so we're not using that mic?
No, you still need it for the recording.
Oh.
No, you're good. No, you won't hear it here.
Okay.
Yeah. There's no speaker internally, it's just recording.
Okay, perfect. Whose food is anybody want to, do you want it in here? All right, good evening. I know we weren't supposed to make a fun, long presentation, but I couldn't resist our Goosehill pictures. Our kids are amazing. So I made a short and sweet presentation, and I'll walk you through it in under 3 minutes, I promise. Do you have the, okay, perfect. So the current enrollment at Goosehill, we have 6 kindergarten classes. We currently have 5 grade 1 classes and 1 ABA class, that is a 611. So that means we have 6 students. We currently don't have a full class of 6, we have 4, and then we have 1 program aide. So if you look right underneath, our projected enrollment has risen. So we are going from 111 kindergarten students to currently having 126 registered. That was as of this afternoon. So we are going to break a section, so we will need one more kindergarten class, bringing us up to 7 sections. And then we have, coming up, we have 6 kindergarten classes coming up to first. So we're opening up an additional first grade class. That'll bring us to 112 first graders. We have 1 first grader coming in from one of the Friends schools. And our ABA class will be a full 612. So we'll have 6 students next year with 2 program aides in the program.
Can I ask a,
Sure.
so you're gonna have 2 more classrooms
Yes.
needed next year than you have?
Yeah, so we need 2 additional classrooms, so I'll walk you through like all the fun stuff. It's like furnishing a new house. So we have our budget line in equipment and materials and textbooks went up about $30,000 for each classroom. So after we did all of the quotes and, you know, furniture, desks for students, desks for teachers, carpets, the additional textbooks for math, for foundations, everything rounds up to about $30,000 per class. So don't be alarmed when you see that part going up. Then we have, these are just current supports. You know, we want to thank you for everything that you've done to support us this year. We have booked, I think, over 6 LICM. So the Long Island Children's Museum has come into Goosehill. And they come in starting this month regularly to visit the classrooms, and they have one-to-one STEAM workshops. So the students have the opportunity for, you know, one-to-one. They were making propellers yesterday, they made bunny copters, they learned all about, you know, aerospace and how to build an airplane and what the propellers mean. During January, we had Lunar New Year workshops. So the students in kindergarten, because the first graders had already, you know, engaged in this program last year, they got to learn about Lunar New Year and what year they're born in and what, you know, what's the animal and they made the animal for that year and worked on different crafts. So we just want to go through a few things just to say, you know, thank you. So currently, these are some of the professional development and curriculum projects that we have supported throughout this year. We purchased new decodable readers. We have implemented some of the Youth Live strategies in small group learning, where we have Integrity for each teacher, the multi-sensory phonemic awareness program. We've sent teachers to many science and reading workshops, and also our special area teachers have gone to the responsive classroom workshops specifically for special areas. And we purchased books for each teacher, building thinking classrooms in mathematics. Because of the new math program, we want them to understand the thinking behind the conceptual understanding and building a classroom that's run by the students, for the students. So we were able to purchase that, and we also were able to purchase individualized math center kits for each student. So because the new math program is so hands-on, each student has their own center kit, so anytime they need a material, they have it right in their desk or in their seat sack, and they can open it up and just, you know, move on. Like, the teacher doesn't have to prepare for every single lesson. The students have that autonomy to take out the materials that are needed for that lesson. And then we have, we would just want to say thank you for all the field trips that you funded. Friday is our first field trip for kindergarten. We're going to the Vanderbilt Planetarium, so the teachers have selected workshops that align with the science curriculum. The first graders are going to the Heckscher Museum of Art. There's a literacy through art program that we're involved in. And at the end of the year, all of the students will attend the Long Island Children's Museum, Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus by Mo Willems, the musical. And then this year, we also want to say thank you for our after-school clubs. We were able this year to open up an additional club, and it's called the Little Learners Science Discovery Lab. So this club takes place indoors and outdoors. And we have 3 sessions at 4 weeks each, and as soon as I send out the sign-ups, you know, we're filled up. Every student has the opportunity to join one of our after-school clubs. So this is the new projected supports. for next year. So if you look in the textbooks section, it's gone up by $30,000. I highlighted the illustrative math. Illustrative math was not budgeted for last year, so this is the year that each school is taking on their budget for the textbooks and the centers that are needed for next year. And all the way on the top right corner, the professional development code went up by $5,000 for teachers. We sent out a few of our teachers to become certified in IMSC, which is the Orton-Gillingham sensory program for students or who need the additional support, or if you have dyslexia. So we want to send 2 teachers next year to actually get the certification, so it's double in price. So we did raise that budget line so we can have more teachers who are certified in that Orton-Gillingham program. This is where, come back one, Joe. This is where the 2 additional classrooms will be added, so that line for equipment and materials will total up to an increase of $30,000, where we have to furnish the 2 additional classrooms. So now we just have to look for space.
Do you have space?
We'll move a few things around and work it out.
We have the pre-K in there right now, one class, right?
Yes.
So is that a room that possibly may be redistributed based on enrollment in other buildings?
Yes, so we, we're gonna take a walk, Mr. Bertini, Mr. Montestero, we've taken many walks, but we'll take another walk and then we'll find the
Find where
space. We have some
We'll be able to work
ideas,
it.
yeah, we have ideas and we definitely will make it work. There's ways to make it work, or put like the resource room teacher or a consultant teacher in a smaller, office area instead of have like a classroom. But we also have the ABA class, which is only 6 students instead of, a full 18, where we could also bring them maybe to the TA suite. We have a teacher assistant area where they work in small groups. We could also, move that around when they're pushing it to the classrooms.
How reliable is the projection for the kindergarten next year?
So at this
I
time.
feel like it's early.
It is early. It never goes down from here. It only goes up. We usually will lose maybe 2 or 3, but then over the summer we get 5.
Right.
So it is pretty reliable. We've never had this solid of a number at this time, but I have been meeting with many families who are moving in or closing in 2 weeks. And they, they're like, we're in, we're coming in here. We just wanted to know, what does the building look like, and what's your philosophy around technology? But it is a pretty solid projection. So they have to give in all their paperwork for their house, all that stuff. And it's coming along. Every day I'm getting, some of the emails that they're already registering in eSchool.
And something new we did this year, we did a postcard for UPK and kindergarten. So I think that really hit everybody in the district, and if you didn't see it, a neighbor said, hey, did you get the postcard, you got age kids? We're getting the numbers early, and I hope, we're really getting it.
Yeah, the UPK registration itself went out much earlier this year as well, which also helped support to put a push around the community.
And I think they also know, we have UPK, it's our 3rd year going into it next year, so the word is out.
Do we have room around the district for 2 UPK classes still?
We could fit the 2.
Yeah, okay.
Like I said, we've getting small, so you spread out, everybody has a little extra space. It might be, a little tighter, you need, a service may be in a smaller space. As my wife was a PT, pediatric PT, she worked in a closet half of her life. When I say they'll do that, but it'll be tighter.
And then a projected support for next year, we have, so this year we have we started it the first year, the board funded the after-school clubs, the Lego Robotics Club, and it was a big hit. So this year we wanted to purchase science Lego Robotics kits for another program that we can add into our STEM curriculum for next year. We did get a message from Lego that the kits that we're using will be phased out in the next couple of years. So we wanted to start replenishing the science Lego Robotics kits for the students, which they love. I mean, it's a big hit. It's always a full size after-school club, so we have to use 2 full teachers to work with that club. But the students, I mean, they're hands-on and they absolutely love it. And then the next support for next year is, these are RE bots and Spiro Indy cars. So the students are able to code the cars. They have like a raceway, they can race the different cars, how fast they're going, how slow they're going. They can code the robots. They have sensors on them, and then they can create, they don't have to use a digital portion with the RE bots. They can use a hands-on portion to code them. So they don't have to be on the iPad while they're coding them. And some of the other ones, you have to use the iPad to code. This one comes with its own system. It's more advanced, the RE bots. So these are just some things we're going to purchase for next year. And, any questions?
All right, we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
I
thank
think
you.
it was a camera. I remember it happened previously, 2 years ago. It was touching the screen.
All right, thanks, Dr. Barnes.
Thank you. You could go, Ms. Costa.
Oh, thank you very
Thank
much.
you,
Ms. Hoffman.
Thank you. I literally be
Yeah,
happy.
thank
Thanks. Get home for that.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for giving both Ms. Shanahan and I the opportunity to present this evening. Before diving in, we did want to remind folks, if you're looking for something wonderful to do this weekend, we hope to see you at our 2-night production of The Lion King on March 6th and March 7th at 7 p.m. at the Spring Harbor BOE. The students have been working hard, and ladies and gentlemen, we have the show. Again, thank you for providing Ms. Shanahan and I with the opportunity to provide a brief overview of our proposed 2026-2027 budgets for both Lloyd Harbor School and West Side School, our 2 through 6 elementary schools. This budget reflects a careful balance between fiscal responsibility and our continued commitment to providing a high-quality learning environment for every student in grades 2 through 6 across Cold Spring Harbor schools. As we develop this budget, we work with our central administration to remain focused on 3 key priorities: maintaining strong instructional programming, supporting our students' well-being, and investing strategically in our learning spaces to ensure they match the excellence of the teaching and learning happening within them. This next slide shows both schools' enrollment projections for the 2026-2027 school year. We have worked diligently to preserve the core instructional structures that support strong student achievement. This includes things like maintaining class sizes determined by our Board of Education. We know that smaller class sizes will continue to allow for individualized attention and personalized learning. We also work to protect our intervention and student support services and to ensure continuous access for students to their specials and to many enrichment opportunities that contribute to a well-rounded and robust elementary school experience. Our goal was to strengthen what is working while being thoughtful and measured in specific areas of growth.
This year, Dr. Barnes and I continue to work to align our budgets and integrate new and equitable opportunities. As an example, the Ellis Island immersion experience has finally returned to Lloyd Harbor School this year, and we successfully had our 5th grade participate in the fall, and this spring is scheduled to join West Side, not at the same time, different buildings, same time of year, in the 4th grade experience. So as a result of the Ellis Island immersion experience returning to Lloyd Harbor, and it's been at West Side for many years now, Dr. Barnes and I worked with our parent groups to conceptualize a 5th grade trip to Ellis Island, which we hope to take that inaugural trip this fall. So that's why you will see our contractual expenses have an increase there, and that second bullet, you will also see that we have budgeted for half the cost of the Philadelphia, Ellis Island, and Broadway trips as the board has prioritized these last 2 years. The buses for Philadelphia, Ellis Island, and Broadway are also included in our budget, and we do know that sometimes the PTG takes on those expenses, but those are included in our budget as well. A 5-year flexible furniture replacement plan so that we can, be focused on and prioritize when and how we are replacing our worn flexible furniture. And then monogrammed items such as tablecloths, those are included in our budget, and then replacement classroom carpets that get worn over time, those are in both of our budgets as well.
Can I ask that half the cost of the field trips to Philadelphia, those, are you budgeting for the, are you assuming that the board is gonna cover half and you're budgeting for the other half? Or are you putting in your budget that you are assuming that the board is, that the district will cover half, and that's what you're talking about?
So if the district covers half, as we have retroactively in the past 2 years, that's what's budgeted for. The other half comes from families.
Okay.
So with the Ellis Island, they're still gonna, so the 5th grade, that's the new trip for the 5th grade. And then they're still gonna go to Philadelphia? Is 5th
So
grade?
Philadelphia is 4th grade,
Okay,
and Broadway is 6th grade.
okay.
Any other questions on that one? In terms of our textbook expenses, you will see, and we have a slide on this later on, you will see that that category went up quite a bit. We did, obviously, we are adopting the illustrative math digital program with the math centers and the homework support, and also looking to purchase those illustrative math manipulative toolboxes that you see in the bottom right. Christina mentioned this in her presentation as well. We purchased them for grade 2 this past year, and we would be looking to purchase them for grades 3 through 6 for this coming budget year. And then our NeuroNet program, which was not budgeted for in grade 2 for last year, but we did roll it out. We were able to do that. We have budgeted for that program and the workbooks for grade 2. And so that will mean that all of NeuroNet in the district, grades K through 2, will continue, and that's the maximum for that program.
Okay, one of the areas I'm excited to highlight tonight is our multi-year plan to enhance our physical learning environments, beginning with the updates to the West Side Library Media Center. The Library Media Center is truly one of the heartbeats of our school. It is not only a place for students to check out books, but a place for research, collaboration, exploration, and of course, community building. Over time, much of the furniture has aged and no longer supports the flexible, student learning centered environment we envision. In the 26-27 budget, we have proposed a library refresh that includes updated tables and chairs designed to be durable, flexible, and developmentally appropriate. These upgrades will allow the space to be reconfigured easily for whole class instruction, small group collaboration, independent reading, and or special community events. Our intention is to create a welcoming, more modern environment that reflects the importance of literacy and inquiry as a whole within our school.
If you have been to Lloyd Harbor, you know that we boast some of the most beautiful and expansive outdoor spaces, which we're very proud of, and our students love to enjoy as often as we can get outside. So for this year's budget, we are proposing those tables that you see there. We are not only replacing some tables that were worn out and that we had to dispose of in our interior courtyard that is adjacent to our cafeteria, but also implementing some of those out near our recess and playground area. Students can access the tables in the courtyard during lunch. Perhaps it's like an earn a table outside type of a program. I think our aides would be excited to be able to be out a little bit more when the weather is nice, as our students would. And then for the recess and playground area, not every student likes to run wild for the time that they have at recess. Although a lot of our students, some do want to use the time to sit and read a book or play a game of cards with peers, or even do a craft. So that will be a really nice addition to our recess area as well. The flexible furniture for our 3 ICT classrooms that I have there, we are lucky enough and we hope that we are getting, to be able to expand to 6 full-time ICT sections at Lloyd Harbor this year. That would be a full day in grades 2, 3, 4, 5. We have a second section we would need to open up in grade 5, and then 1 section in grade 6. Whereas there was 2 in grade 6 this year, there will be 2 in grade 5 next year, only 1 in grade 6. So some of those classrooms have, their furniture are the older style desks. They do not have the flexible furniture, so looking at targeting those ICT classrooms to set them up for parallel teaching and small group work. And then you will also notice the classroom libraries there for 2, 4, 5, and 6. We were able to do grade 3 this school year. In classroom libraries, that's quite an expense, but it allows teachers to pull from their curated lists that they kind of keep and buy classroom sets. Sometimes there's books that just need to be replaced and they're in line with the curriculum, and others are, to pique a student interest. They're at different levels, and they're designed, the teachers want to have those available with multiple copies available so that they know the stories themselves. They can better help guide students in their assessment conferences and pique student interest based on, new topics that students like to read about. Basketball is always a good one. National Geographic has a lot of really interesting topics, and those are some sets that our teachers are really hoping to get a few more copies of. And then we do have 1 teacher that is at the practicum stage of her Orton Gillingham experience, and you'll see that is specifically a line item on the Lloyd Harbor budget for making sure, seeing her through her practicum experience next year. Any questions for me? Lastly, this is a little bit of a shock of a page, but I'll give you a little bit of a bird's eye view here. You'll see some of for instance, our textbook money has gone up significantly, but our instructional resources money has gone down. So number 1, the illustrative math program, the new resources that we're, purchasing this year, those are placed in textbooks. And then there was some materials that were formerly in instructional resources that we then moved to textbooks to maximize our aid that we receive back on these items. So that's why you see the categories are a little lopsided and wonky. We spent a lot of time digging into this with our district leaders and making sure that we were getting the maximum aid on all of what we were planning to purchase.
About what's the percentage of this generally that's illustrative math? Is that really
I know you're blending 2 areas together too, but
Yes.
what percentage of all that is math?
I can tell you for at Lloyd Harbor, my illustrative math, I can give you the amount.
Maybe dollar amount?
$30,000 at Lloyd Harbor that was not there before.
And West Side is 20.
Okay, so it gives us a sense.
The classroom libraries are also in that textbook budget for Lloyd Harbor, so that is quite an expense. I have $35,000 listed there. And those, that's a wish item. If we had to scale back on something, we do a little bit at a time and we don't do it all at once. We will purchase those as we go.
Is that like the classroom libraries, is that each teacher picks different books or they get 1 copy for their classroom and they for the whole class?
Grade level, so they develop lists by grade level, so it could be that the entire grade level, especially at a 5 or 6, is reading the same book, or sometimes at grades 2 and 3, they like kids to, they're trying to teach them to love to read, so the topic is really important, but also having varying levels, so they'll have multiple copies of the same book, because this group a few kids may really love to read about sea otters, and it's at the right level for those kids and it's pushing them. So they are looking for sometimes whole class sets and sometimes smaller amounts.
Do we have any idea how much aid we would get back?
Textbooks?
Yes, textbooks, we get the most aid back. So when you compare textbooks, software, library aid, textbooks, we get the most back. I can get you the figure, I don't want to misspeak, but it's definitely within our favor to put as much as we can that qualifies as textbook aid into the textbook line so that we are maximizing that aid.
It's about 50%.
It's a dollar amount.
Of a maximum.
Yeah, so and you can hit a maximum ceiling, so it's not something that is, like BOCES, where we can just put as much into BOCES as we can and we get all that aid back. But I'll get that figure for you. But we did work very hard to make sure that we were looking and seeing what the state will aid for textbooks, and we made sure we put whatever they would into that line. Very smart.
And you'll see that there may be some things now in the code that the state or BOCES changes and does accept for aid. We may shift it where we ultimately purchase it from. If we see that change, because it's still on BOCES and it's still early for them in the state.
Right, and that's sometimes why you see budget code shifting.
So it just, Westside, to answer the same question about the textbooks. We increased $20,000 for illustrative math and $17,500 for classroom library upgrades. If you look at the first category in equipment, while it might look like a reduction, part of the budgeting process was making sure that we were putting funding in the specific categories. So money was decreased because $14,000 was moved to building and grounds to do some of the facility work in our cafeteria with noise panels. And then you'll see the instructional resources was primarily, looks like it decreased, but that's because many items were moved from instructional resources to textbooks. So it's just making sure that they're in the right homes for the actual subject lines. So things like the handwriting books, the foundations, notebooks, and so on. So with that, again, this was a brief overview. Ms. Shanahan did want to just say to the Board of Education, thank you so much for the support to our 2 through 6 elementary schools. We work to have our budgets reflect our district's ongoing commitment to academic excellence, a strive for excellence, making sure we're being responsible stewards of the resources, and of course, to create learning environments that inspire curiosity and growth and a love of learning. I am proud of the thoughtful work that went into this proposal and grateful to the board's continued support of our students and staff. On behalf of Ms. Shanahan and I, we thank you, and we're happy to answer any questions or field any of your inquiries. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Thank you, guys.
No, that's good. I think you guys are just straight up.
Yes, you guys go.
Is that what I
Okay, so following those stellar presentations, I'm just going to give you an overview of curriculum instruction for this year. I want to begin by thanking the board for funding all of the professional development and materials and training that really support all of our district programs in 12. As I go through this evening, you'll hear a little bit about some increases and some reallocations very similar to what we just saw in the other presentations. It's not going to be a line-by-line comparison because there were a lot of shifts from one code to another, very similarly. You'll also see that I've taken a look at areas where we were in deficit and we had to move money into my funding for this year, so I wanted to make sure that we were properly allocated for the upcoming year. So when it comes to staffing, I am proposing that there be a shared secretary for the directors and chairs. So when you look at the shared paperwork, materials,
receiving of materials, distribution, organization of field trips, and various things that come department by department. It would be very valuable for us to have a secretary for directors and chairs. When you examine our neighboring districts, both in Nassau and Suffolk, they all have and offer a secretary for the directors and chairs. It would be one secretary shared by all of them. So it's definitely going to allow them more time to get into the classroom, roll their sleeves up and work with the teachers. When we think about core instruction, I wanted to distinguish between the literacy and math coach versus the science specialist. I'm proposing a literacy coach 1.0 FTE as well as a math coach 1.0 FTE. Full-time 1.0. Just as a reminder, these coaches will be working across all of our elementary buildings, which is a large amount of classrooms and teachers that they're supporting. They become the bridge between our classroom teachers, our AAS providers, our special ed providers, and our instructional initiatives. So they really are the ones that as we examine what our best practices are, they're going into classrooms, they're examining lessons, they're modeling with teachers, they're using the new resources, they're doing that modeling with teachers, they're examining our AIS data that comes out of all of the testing that we do, they're making sure that the pedagogical approaches really are tailored to our students.
I don't want to be taking forever, but I'm just curious. Is this going to be a teacher that we bring on tenure track to keep forever? Because I feel like we've, Mrs. Soul did a great job, but then she goes back to the classroom like
at 1.0 full-time teacher under my umbrella, working across all buildings where they will stay as that position. It's not going to be a special assignment. That's what I'm looking for.
So they would be just the coach, not a...
They are not a classroom teacher, which is why I'm distinguishing between classroom teachers and coaches. So the science specialist is a classroom teacher, so I'll get to that.
Now,
So
is it K to 12?
So no, they would be K to 6 in our elementary buildings only. The math coach, currently what we have is a 0.2, and that 0.2 is distributed to our AIS coordinator, who took that on just because we don't have anybody with, nobody's coming for a 0.2 math coach position. And we're asking that one individual to travel to all of the buildings to work with our new illustrative math with every single teacher, modeling instruction, providing support resources. A lot of our new illustrative program, again, is a very hands-on approach to mathematics, requires a lot of communication with our parents, as well as providing additional instructional resources to support both at-home work from the homework area, as well as aligning what we would consider the benchmark assessments, and all of that would really come from the math coach. They would be modeling a lot of the components of the illustrative program, which is a lot of work across the district, and that doesn't go away. It doesn't go away after we onboard to the new program, because we're always getting new staff, so that's really important. We keep hiring, we see a large amount of retirements, and when we look forward, fast forward 5 years, we're seeing a lot of teachers going to be exiting our system. As we get new teachers onboarded, they too need to have the experiences and be onboarded to the actual vision of what this program is, and make sure that they're
And also
implementing it
yesterday when
correctly.
we sat in the PD, would this be a teacher that would give PD?
Say it again.
Would they give PD as well?
This teacher would be working with our classroom teachers during a curricular day, no pull-outs, right, going directly into the classroom, examining what's being done, offering instructional models to make sure that the small group is running correctly. Again, looking at the data that the AIS and all of our testing shows, making sure that all of the hands-on activities are tailored to each of the students in each cohort. Teachers alone, because of all of the initiatives that we have, don't have the opportunity to go ahead and dig in that deeply, so that's the role that they would play.
So these would be forever positions.
These would be forever positions.
And we just added the .2 on the math coach this past year.
This past year, because so it was
The new program.
this is a new program, and the 0.2 is not, we can't get to everybody that needs our support. We would be able to pare back substantially on outside professional development if we had internal people. I can definitely see that as we continue through the years.
After illustrative math has been going on for a few years, do you think we can scale back maybe on the math coach?
No, because again, the math coach becomes the liaison between all of the programs and making sure that we're tailoring instruction. So again, from a director standpoint, at a bird's eye view, we don't have the opportunity to get into every single class on a consistent basis, on a daily basis, to make sure that those things are happening and that we're tailoring that instruction. If we have a math coach, they then become that consistent person that's able to make those rounds on a scheduled, visits, watching small group, identifying where there might be gaps, looking at state data, making sure that we're turning, assessments and other things to address any gaps.
It's a teacher, not an administrator.
It is a teacher, not an administrator. They would be working under I would be overseeing them, but they are a teacher, but not, they don't have their own class. That's the difference.
Right now-
So they're a teacher teaching teachers.
Right now, who's taking on these roles that are now going to be distributed to these 4 employees?
So right now, we don't have enough of the math coach that's happening right now. I brought in outside professional development to bridge the gap, but even with that outside professional development, I can't get to the teachers enough as much as I need to in order
And
to
they have to
ensure.
leave the classroom to get that.
They are being pulled out.
They're getting pulled out as stuff goes into class.
That's correct.
When they get pulled out.
This would maintain fluidity within the program. So you would have a regular teacher just popping in, seeing what's going on, then connecting during grade level meetings and saying, I was in your class, I saw this, let's take a look at what that looked like. Let me give you some more feedback. Here's some resources. Make sure that the parents get this, that they're revising assessments based on what you're seeing in each cohort. It's very different than what can happen from the director bird's eye model.
And right now, who's doing the work of would be the shared secretary? Is that something you're dealing with, or is that something that our director of humanities or our chair people are?
The chair people and the directors are doing all of their secretarial work. They do have a purchasing agent at the high school that does help once the orders, and they've identified all
So
of
that
those
would ease the
needs.
burden of those individuals.
That's correct.
So on the coaching, we were to say, what metrics, if we wanted to assess, let's say we approved it and 2 years down the road, we wanted to say, how's it working? What type of metrics do you, and you don't have to answer this now, but I think I'd be curious, what type of metrics we could look at to see that we're getting value out of that investment? Is it better state assessment scores? Is it better retention? I don't know, maybe you could think about that.
Sure, I'll let them Meredith and I can certainly put
Okay.
something together.
Yeah, I think that's important. I was going to ask something similar because we, as you know, were told that the math coach was a temporary position and we weren't expecting to have another level, I don't think, put in between the administration and I know this was the teacher, but another level at this point. So it's not something that we were, when we took on the program and all the planning for this level is not something that was in the ongoing plans. We would definitely need to see something that can justify the ongoing cost of it, right?
Absolutely.
And also, we were on a 2-year or 3-year plan with
Literacy strategies.
that's planning on literacy. That's over at the end
So
of the
we
year?
are next year will be the last year for the Goosehill and grade 2. They were off cycle, so they started at a different time point, so next year is the last year for them. But we have pared back substantially on the professional development from that group this particular year and just kept with the progression for the K-1, and then we're finishing out with the other grade levels.
So we really don't vote, right?
Don't
Literacy
vote.
coach and the literacy strategies?
So, again, I think we should finish so that there's equity across all grade levels in terms of the overall training that they've received. I've been working very tightly with literacy strategies to make sure that it really aligns with what it is that we're doing across all content areas, and then more specific to literacy itself. The model itself, I wanted more standards-based alignment. We were talking a lot about vocabulary work with the teachers. providing exemplars for what the strategies might look like across each specific unit. So that's some of the work and the conversations that we've had this year. My goal is, of course, to make sure that all the teachers have been trained the same way at the start with the initiation of the program, and then K1-2 would be done next year the same way as K-6 is this year. So the science specialist, and just to, as a follow-up to the literacy and math coach conversation, and again, to address the justification, I did have extensive conversations with the NACOs, the Assistant Superintendents group, and there are several districts that are actually adding the coaching model to them, including Finville, Bethpage, North Shore, Manhasset, Mineola. All of them agree that the coaching model is the best way to get people into all of the classrooms on a very consistent basis, to provide appropriate supports and tailored instruction. So each one of those districts will be proposing not just one, but multiple coaches across the districts. Granted, some of them are larger than us, so I recognize why there may be multiples, but there is value to the coaching model, and that tends to be the trend that we're seeing in other districts in terms of addressing, again, we talked about it, there's a lot of lifts that we have going on, and teachers, we need to make sure that there's enough support, especially to our youngest teachers that are coming on board and having to do all of these lifts all at once. So to make sure that we're taking care of every student and we're achieving what the Board of Ed goals are, which is excellence and right, keeping our ranking at the top, I really feel like this is the model that we should be moving to.
Right, I'm just thinking, my whole thing is that if we hire a literacy coach, right, can it eliminate maybe bringing in somebody
Yes.
like strategies?
It
where
can,
this
well,
teacher maybe is going out, learning and bringing it back.
Yes, you will see more turnkey than we currently do, absolutely. And that would be obviously under my direction, and we would work in tandem and make sure. For example, we're bringing in Writing Revolution between Megan Geiser and a literacy coach right after initial onset of Writing Revolution. That work could be done in-house. But again, if we want to avoid the pull-out model where we're pulling teachers right from their classrooms, the coaching model allows them to get into the classroom and then do that modeling directly with the class in front of them, right, in concert with the teacher. And that's a model that I believe we believe in, because we don't want to pull our teachers from contact time with students. So the science specialists, when I presented the data earlier this year in October, one of the gaps that we were seeing is, where is our science levels and our numbers, right? If we think about our 3 through 8 science, and one of the best ways to do that is to have more hands-on real-world laboratory experiences. We're seeing this trend where students have to draw conclusions, they have to have these cross-cutting concepts and these engineering practices, and that all the exemplars on the state assessment are through models and hands-on work, that they're bringing that into these paragraphs of information that students then need to extrapolate from, and they're supposed to be drawing these connections. So right now, we only have one science specialist that's shared across both Lloyd Harbor and Westside School. So to increase the total number of lab experience time in both Lloyd Harbor, Westside, and now Goosehill, especially with the Lego Science program that Ms. Cosme wants to bring in, and we use the Science 21, which is all hands-on, I would propose that we add a teaching position. Again, this is different than the literacy coach, because this is the teacher that would be in the laboratory, and the students would then walk to the laboratory. I'm also proposing that it be a co-teach model where the classroom teacher is in with the laboratory instructor. Why? Because we want them to understand what real-world experiences and experiments that they're doing, and then make those connections when they go ahead and teach the science in the classroom.
So would this occur at the same time? Because I know we're trying to fit everything into the schedule. So instead of doing science in the classroom with just their regular teacher, they'll be going to a science lab in the building with the science teacher and their regular teacher?
So there would be two things that would be happening, because it's a dual model. So there would be regular class time, because we increased, this year was the first time that we increased science across the grade levels to have it multiple times throughout the week. It used to not be as many times as it is now. So this is the newer model, right? We would increase the time in the laboratory for certain grade levels. For other grade levels, it did exist, but we're seeing in the younger grade levels, we didn't see as much time in the laboratory, and we'd like to extend that. So to balance that out and to gain, to, right now we're losing time in travel because we have that teacher traveling to 2 different buildings and we're trying to, right, to cover the classes, and then we're looking at increasing sections. I would add the science specialist to one side that would be split between West Side and Goosehill, and then keep one full-time science specialist at Lloyd Harbor because it's large.
Because we already have one science specialist.
It would be, yes, so we would keep the one that we had, and we would add one.
So if a class has science like 4 times a week and it's usually in the classroom, now 2 of them will be in the classroom and 2 will be in the lab?
It would most likely, for some grades, they weren't all getting equal lab time, so we would just increase the lab time by 1. Some grades were getting 1 lab already a week, so we would increase by 1. Some were getting it all
During their
curricular, their scheduled science blocks. We're not adding more block time, so it doesn't change the overall schedule. It's not adding another core onto them. It's not taking away from any other time. But it is giving, for example, in our grades 3 and 4, this is the first year that they're actually teaching science multiple days a week. And before it had only been a one lab experience, and it was reduced based on alternate weeks. I feel like this would be more consistent, and it's helping the classroom to make those connections between what those real world experiences are and what they should be driving inside the classroom. About their lab experience, and that actually is preparing them for the new next generation science test, where they're actually applying the language of science into their scientific thinking and justifying whatever might be in the model and then extrapolating.
Great, thank you.
And there'd still be a science, like I know in history, there's a science/social studies teacher and there's grade 2, right? So that still would be a place.
Those are the same things. Okay, so the next slide just really addresses the in-service training, instruction, and professional development. For those of you who are on the professional development committee, we spoke extensively about the levels of professional development that go on around the district. I just wanted to point out a couple areas. You will see some increases in the area of AP Summer Institute and national conferences for directors and the Conference of the ELI. The reason why I put that, one is we had several retirements, so we're going to be sending several of our new teachers to train for the AP in order for them to be able to teach it. The second thing is you approved, right, several new AP courses. So we need to have that summer training for those teachers, for them to be able to teach that course. In terms of the national conferences, it's something, when the board charged us with making sure that we were, aiming towards mastery, you can't aim towards mastery operating in silo, right? So ideas and innovation and experiences and new ways of thinking come from exposure and conversations and gauging what's on the national scene and making sure that our directors themselves are exposed to those things and bringing that back and in turn giving that to our teachers. So that is something that was formerly here at Spring Harbor and then faded away, I think because of COVID, and there were less and less national conferences that people were attending. But I believe now, we're back on, and we need to be out there on the streets, making sure that we know what's going on and making sure that our teachers have access. The second thing you'll see is the increase in K-2 and 3 through 6 illustrative math. And that's in-service training, that's through some of our outside professional developer that will be training our math coach on the illustrative program, making sure that they can drive that instruction. That's, again, examining what we would consider benchmark assessments in our 3 through 6, making sure that they are aligned to the illustrative model, but they maintain the rigor of what we expect here at Spring Harbor. The Superintendent's Conference Day speaker, we have proposed through the Professional Development Committee that we would like to make sure that we have a very motivational speaker that has a theme that we believe that we can spiral all throughout the year. And we have looked at Dr. Joe Sanfilippo, so there will be an increase in that budget code to make sure that we can cover that. Number 4, you heard earlier about Wilson and Orton Gillingham responsive classroom. We've heard about a little bit of science resources and Science 21. And then we certainly have the science research consultant that we have used in the past for our summer science research. So with Orton Gillingham, I know you already heard it from the other elementary principals. The initial Orton Gillingham falls under me. So they move on and then get the final certification, but the initial training comes out of my office. And so the more new teachers that we have at the elementary level, we want to make sure that we expand capacity, right, for our services. So we offer that training for our newest teachers coming in, and that falls under my
Like
umbrella.
training, you mean fully certified?
Correct. Yeah. So, in the science, we're looking at science resources and materials. Science 21 is a program that we've had ongoing, and what I know is that there are several. There will be some new teachers. We look at the grade K, and they're expanding right to the multiple sections. The new hires need to be trained on how to implement Science 21, so that falls under that budget. And then, Cajodio is an ongoing program that we're working with in our certainly in our junior high. Our new tech teacher will continue to be trained on that. And then number 5 is our mentoring program. We anticipate, like some of this is allocated through the ESSA grant, right, that comes out of my office. So it's partially funded there. I gave the allocation that comes from there. But as you know, we've spoken about now several times just in this presentation alone, we have several new teachers that are entering, right, our gates, and we offer that training. Both Brian and I run that program. And that currently it's a 3-year training with a 4th year that's optional. As we continue to grow in terms of the total number of untenured teachers that we have, Brian and I have already begun to talk about how we're going to need to modify that program, because we're going to run out of mentors because we'll have way more mentees than we do tenured and seasoned staff. So that's something that we're going to continue to look at. But in projection, based on the total number that we have in the program this year, we needed to increase this budget program.
What is the cost for?
Say it again.
What is the cost of the mentoring program?
So we pay the mentors for hours outside of their curricular day to serve to work with our mentees. So they get paid based on whether or not they're working with a newer, based on the licensure of the incoming teacher, what license they're under. So it's a different rate for the different types of teachers, whether they have a professional license or not. But that's really where the time comes from, and then the hours that they participate in our trainings.
And it's a 3-year training?
Currently, it's 3 years. Not all districts do that. I think it's something that we should certainly be proud of, that we we believe in the road to tenure. We believe in supporting our teachers through that process. We believe in modeling, right, best practices all along the way, and really focusing each year on specific, forms of pedagogy and best practices for our teachers so that they progress and they're successful. And then they always, the relationship that they form with that mentor is phenomenal. That should extend all the way throughout their career.
Okay, so they have the same mentor for 3 years.
Currently, what they've done, is that it's been, for the first 2 years, they have the same mentor, and then they switch in year 3. Just to give them a different perspective and a different, outlook. My guess is that we won't be able to continue that just on a sheer number of mentees. Currently, when Brian and I offer it, there's 100 people in the room when we run our mentoring workshops, because it's the mentor and the mentee together. So we have 50, a little over 50 new staff that we're currently training in those years. Okay, so we heard a little bit about our curriculum development. This really comes from, this is all allocated to our summer curriculum writing. And I want to point out that when I arrived here, we were in the negative in this budget code because we had so many initiatives that were lifted, and so much of the writing projects that were approved of, that we didn't have enough to pay all the things, and we had to move money from one code to the other. So that we wanted to make sure that we had enough to support all of the ongoing initiatives that we have. And this, you'll see each of these programs that are up for the March 10th approval of the Board of Education for all of the different writing projects that we would like to run for this summer. So this is for the payment of the teachers in the summer to do that curriculum writing. Any questions on that? Okay, the next code is just, these are the educational memberships, BOCES and other tech services that fall under my umbrella. You will see that this is membership for the directors, right, for them to belong to, the national and New York State memberships and consortiums. The DNA Learning Center for Lloyd Harbor and Westside also comes out of my budget code. Those are those great experiences in our partnership with the lab down the road. We see that so valuable. And then I just wanted to make a note that the high school budget has both biology and human molecular genomics and biology course fees that will all fall under that. So we're not limited to those two things at Lloyd Harbor and Westside. We really partner extensively with the laboratory, and we value that partnership. But you will see those, and they'll show up in Dan's budget code, and I gave you the combined. And then the BOCES consortiums for ELA, math, PPS, science, health, and PE, as well as the curriculum development materials this is mandatory for our program, the math PD that we've brought in for the illustrative as well as in the middle school, and then, or the junior high, I should say. And then this is the last and remaining part of the literacy strategies of the final year for K-1-2. And then in elementary science, the NGSS NISLIS PLDs, that's really, and the PD, that's really for, as we've seen at the high school level, the science assessments are changing, the Regents exams are changing, and as you know, we're doing a phase rollout, so we're following the cohort. So last year it was biology, this year it's earth science, next year it's chemistry, the following year it will be physics. My goal is really to train our physics teachers in the upcoming year. I'd like them to be well-versed in it all from at the start of September, so they have opportunities to begin to implement some of those in their classrooms before the actual testing year.
Does that hit the same class every year?
It's the following the cohort.
Yeah.
That's the model, yeah, that's the model that we went with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's.
Okay, so then next is universal pre-K, which also falls under my budget. So I wanted to point this out because you may have heard a little bit about it. So currently in 25-26, we received through the UPK grant $5,400 per student, which means that we pick up $300 per student for the 36 students. That's what we agreed to and contracted out with the YMCA. There was a recent proposal through MISED for a $10,000 per student for UPK, but we have not been yet guaranteed that money. So again, it was in the news, we're hearing about it, we're hopeful, we remain hopeful that that's what we get. And of course, if we receive that money, then we could allocate some of the money that we've been kicking in to other things, like security, like anything for the upkeep of any of the buildings that support our UPK programs. It definitely would shift appropriately. But I did want to just point that out, that right now, because it's not guaranteed, we've placed it into my budget code line. Go ahead.
So this is our second year doing UPK.
Yes.
Is the money that we allocate for those students, was it 58?
So that's what the state gives us.
Right, so, and then we kick in another 300 to 5,700
We kick
per
in,
student.
correct.
Has that been enough?
Yes, initially, there was an initial out, on year one, we had to kick in more because we had to buy all the furniture for the 2 classrooms and we bought some resources. But through the grant, what we are able to do is we buy NeuroNet, we buy any of the materials, but they kick in, they kick in a percentage for their paper. I think they pay us for some of the security, and then their bill itself, we cover their bill, and then we just need the additional 300.
Okay.
That's what so we haven't had any issues with that at this point.
You're going to see a lot of UK programs, so if this money comes through, when the new contracts go, asking for more, but appropriate, so that 5,400, I want to say, it's about the same for 10 years. Maybe it's 9, maybe it's 11, it hasn't changed. So prices have increased, everything has gone up, and that's the same amount the state has allocated every year.
But I thought the $10,000 was only when you had to give UPK to everybody.
Right now, that's part of the plan, that is not just 3 years.
Oh, okay.
That's a
I didn't
different
realize
plan.
that the
Great
10,000 was
plan.
going to hit before, well, that.
Right, that's a great plan, but like many districts, they just don't have the space. I don't know if we could, and that's something that we have pushed back on the state. We love that, but we don't physically have the space to have 7 more classrooms. So,
But now what's going to happen if we suddenly get 10,000 per student when we're spending 5,700? You're saying we keep the difference?
So we would reallocate, for some things that are shared amongst the buildings. So for example, we could pick up some of the salaries that are associated with, right, the UPK being inside our building, right? So there's certainly aides and assistants and other things that are sit in the buildings when they're in the lunchroom, when they're on the playground, when we have security that mans the separate, right, they have a separate drop-off and a separate pickup, and, so those things, we could allocate some
electric,
funding for
heating,
that.
we could
Yeah.
continue
We're
that.
allowed
Right.
to use the funds for that, because they
Yes.
really, aren't they really like strict on what?
Part of it is also
Okay.
being more liberal on how we could use the funds
You just have to write the grant that way.
that way.
Yeah, we used to do it in Island Park. We would write the grant, so it subsidized percentages of people's salaries who were involved in UPK, so it's absolutely allowed.
Okay, and then last, I wanted to just point out some of the C&I projects that are fully supported but linked into the building budgets, some of the budgets that you'll be hearing in the future. Just a reminder, on the left-hand side, this year we committed to phase 1 of the Marine Lab, and we're expecting that it will be completed. I just actually heard 2 days ago, and he's expecting to complete the rack 3 by hopefully the end of next week, and then we'll start on the final rack. The rack 3, and then he'll do 4 and 5 together. So, but the racks are up and coming. I don't know if you had an opportunity to go and see it, but they are phenomenal, and we're really excited about what's happening in that Marine Lab and how far it's come this year. So, but phase 2 would be the Coral Reef room. So you will see Coral Reef Part 1 sitting in Dan Zambowski's budget. That would involve, and I just wanted to delineate what that $100,000 would go towards. So it would be towards the reef tank construction. I did a picture of a very similar reef that we would be putting in a similar size room. It would also include the RODI self-sustaining system, which is similar to what we have on the racks, but it would be just the reef. It would include the lighting fixtures, like you see the lighting fixtures above, and the plumbing and electric that's necessary for us to extend out that's currently in that room. And it would start the seeding of some of our initial coral species that would be inside them.
So this $100,000 is what you're asking for, it's outside what was put forth in the bond, and it's like a one-time cost to
Correct.
get it started.
Correct.
And when it says it's a self-sustaining system, is it really self-sustaining, or is there any need for someone to come check on it to make it, is there an associated ongoing cost with it?
There are ongoing costs anytime that you have living organisms in tanks, so that's a known thing. But when I was talking about the term self-sustaining system, is that the water itself and the circulation, it all circles through one system so that we're not constantly pouring water into the system and trying to look at levels. All of that would be balanced and run by the actual system. But yes, whenever you have living organisms, you would need an individual. My goal is for the students to be those individuals, right, that are manning the systems. We believe in hands-on experiences. This is real-world hands-on experience. Anyone going into marine biology or studying marine ecosystems or any type of marine environmental work should be exposed to this and learn how to manage a reef tank system.
So it's going to be completely sustained by the students? or-
Not completely. I mean, there's always challenges that we would face, in terms of, outside of the curricular year. So when June goes away and then, July and August set in, some are shorter and shorter, but we do have, summer weeks where there would need to be care. We currently have a lab aid that is through the science department. So I would hope that we could extend lab aid hours that operate in the summer, not full days. We're talking about a few hours a week. Anytime that there's, for example, a major power outage, we need to check on, right, our reef and make sure that there's care to the organisms, that everything's kicked on for the generator, whatever it may be. Anytime that there's a die-off, so if you have an organism that dies in a tank, anybody that's experienced tanks, that there's usually a cascade, so that a cleanup process would need to be. If there's an algal bloom, we need to cover that. So those are little things that would need to occur all throughout the
We have a
summer.
sense of how much those ongoing costs are going to be per year to keep this $100,000 investment up to line?
So I have, prior, way back when I was here in the initial bond proposal, when we designed this space, and we had the vision for the coral reef, we looked at an individual that would really care for the marine wetland, which would be an aquarist. And when we priced out other schools, and there's only a few, right? Southampton is one, the Marine Magnet School in Groton, Connecticut is another. When we priced out, Huntington has one as well. When we priced out what that looked like, you're talking about $57,000 per year is the average salary of a marine aquarist. The role of that aquarist would be up to us, but in other districts, what they do is if you have marine species that you'd like to bring in and they need to go to a place to pick up the species, right, because they're buying it from a store that sells that species, they would do that driving and go because we don't want to send a teacher during the curricular day outside of their classroom and lose travel time and whatnot, so they take care of that. If there's a frag swap, for those of you who don't know, that would be when you have a coral and you actually want to do a coral sale, they would organize all of that. When we initially proposed this vision, we also saw this space as a K-12 space. We believe in providing our elementary students with a hands-on exemplar of what ecosystems look like. That person was scheduling field trips to come into the marine lab and doing the tours while the teacher was teaching their classes, right? So because the teacher can't do both. So that job, when we looked at it, was part of what the aquarist role would be. And then we also thought about it in terms of summer camps for some of our students at elementary level, bringing them in, having them do mini experiments, right? And having that marine aquarist be part of that process.
So that's an option that are you suggesting we get?
It's not in this proposal, because this was phased, this is just part of the
I get you, but
phase.
once we do it, like,
That
then
would
we
be
have to
something
know
that-
what an ongoing cost would be if we, if we put 100,000 down, then it's gonna be half that plus every year to keep it up, basically, is part of what that is.
That's part,
I mean,
I mean, that,
we're committing future boards to.
there are other ways to get around that, and we can certainly examine those. I don't want to commit to that one particular model. That was one example of a model that we could do. We could springboard from the lab aid model and extend that slightly to reduce that overall cost. I'm certainly willing to explore all options for the upkeep of this. And again, our belief really is that during the curricular year, a large amount of what's happening in these spaces should be student-driven.
Because at one point, we did have a reef or something like it, right?
We
And
did.
now it was student led.
It was in the greenhouse, I'm not sure why it was placed there, which it suffered an enormous amount of algal blooms given the high temperatures and the
I've
sun.
heard a lot of stories of things like that happening in other schools, so we're not alone with these types of things are very, very sensitive and very
They are.
costly.
That is
This
correct.
question comes up every year about what the ongoing cost will be and what we're committing to. So I feel like we need to actually have a plan at some point if we're going to approve this. I think we need a real plan. Because it comes up time and time again. One of the things that we talked about at 1.2 was whether or not there were student summer internships that could be done, which we can't rely on, but perhaps if there was somebody who was professional, but if they could guide that, then that may be another way to justify the cost if it's something that we're really giving this experience.
Sure, I mean, that summer internship model is a fantastic model, and the students can earn credit, summer credit for that, which would be really, wonderful for them, especially on their portfolio or resume, right? For them to say that they ran a marine wet lab in the summer, right? I mean, how amazing that would be. So that would definitely be something that
It's
we
part of
should
the science
explore.
research program.
But
Exactly.
there would need to be a teacher, though, in charge of that.
Right.
Well, during the curricular year, that's what they're learning. So they should essentially know all those things. And then, and our directors are here, right? So we would have a director of STEM that's here also to refer to. They work all year. And I have extensive experience in this area, so,
Another
I'm happy to offer.
question I have is, can the kids really get into this and use this? I know they can with the tanks, but is it so sensitive that
No, they use it.
They-
Like if you go to Walt
Can
Whitman, if
maintain.
you go to Southampton, we went to Groton, this is all kid driven, right? So this is,
Well, just like the tanks, like they can get
Just
in
like
there,
the
it's
tanks.
not.
Like,
Is it a touch tank?
No.
Well, coral you don't necessarily touch physically yourself, right? So that's not what we do with coral. But experiments would be happening in the various areas of the tank where they could literally start seed coral and learn the best ways to reef. Like for example, when you have a dying reef, right? What are the best ways to see the coral to make sure that the reefs can come back to life?
I'm just wondering if it's one, it looks like one big thing, as
Yeah, there's
opposed to
a-
like the tanks, right, the tanks we have there now, this room, you're responsible for your tank, right? Like, there's different groups responsible for the different marine lab tanks.
Right.
There's different systems, is this one big system?
So it's
And the
one
reef-
tank where you can have different coral species living in different areas, and you can certainly separate areas where even if one species is having, if you're experimenting with one species, it's not
I'm just
necessary.
worried, like, if everything's interwoven,
Yeah.
if someone makes a boo-boo and then.
Yeah, we had
killing
talked
other
about
people's
that
stuff.
too. I thought, where's Jeff? Oh,
Right
Joe's
here.
behind me. So I thought when you looked in Southampton, all the tanks were not connected, so the water was fouled in one tank.
That's in our rack systems.
Okay, that's
That's-
this.
That's
right
those
here.
systems, and that's why we designed so many tanks in our racks.
Got it.
But that's not this.
But
That's
not on the
not that.
reef, not in the reef. It
Now,
sounds
This
like
is even
everything
more
is,
sensitive than that.
In
right.
that reef, there are two tanks, you can't
Yeah.
see it from the, again, with the lighting, it's hard always to take a picture of a coral reef that's ongoing. But there are actually two separate tanks, there's one smaller in the back end, and then there's one larger. So it actually is a two tank section, but yes, in that model. We can certainly design our own model if we feel like we wanted more separation areas for specific experimental areas, we can certainly do that. It's custom, the way that tank is built.
How many students approximately are on the marine biology path track? Like,
I think I think the program itself is growing. We have several electives now that feed that program. Joe, I don't have the direct numbers, Joe could probably pull those. But there are several students now
just
that
want
are
to make sure that
expanding.
we're doing this for 3 students.
No.
And another piece to this is, again, that when I arrived here the very first time as the director of STEM, one of the challenges that was brought up was we predominantly have competed in the benchtop molecular biology category in science research year in, year out. That is the most popular category to enter in science research, which means that it's very difficult to win, right? Because you have the most competitors. And the goal was to expand our science research program. And so one of the areas that we expanded it was adding more computer science into our science research program. And this was the second area we wanted to diversify the types of projects that we're entering. And environmental projects or anything with marine life tends to be a category that is not overpopulated.
And is that work that will be increased by this room, or do you feel like this room is the room where that work is going to be happening?
It's a combination. I think both. So we have different things going on in each of the rooms, which obviously one is very coral focused and the coral ecosystem focused. The other one is going to be on the fish life itself, and then others will be in the aquaponics. Right? So we have an aquaponics center in the main room. So that's something totally different. And again, that's more aligned with what we're seeing out in the field, that students should have those experiences. And again, it's if our students are pursuing areas in this for their career, this is hands-on. Like, they're not getting anything better than this. Okay, so piggybacking off of that, then we are looking to increase our robotics program and also extend our summer science research program. So we're really looking to do more work with our computer science and then making computer science hands-on. So we have this land, air, sea robotics that I've already begun training our teachers for. We're looking at, hydroponics. If you saw the Friday notes, we just submitted a grant for more hydroponic with Arduino and Raspberry Pis. So we would like to be doing more of that work. The robotic cars is something that I would like to extend into our elementary schools so that they can see the hands-on. So right now they're doing coding, but what does coding transcend to? Let's do a lot more of the hands-on components and do a lot more data analysis with the materials that they're creating. You saw the satellite system. That was a grant that we had recently proposed to the Ed Foundation for a startup of 1, but we would be extending that out into our elementary schools so that they're all getting experience with coding, connecting earth and space science and then seeing the robotic piece. And then that would also include professional development in that area. And then the last area is the digital tech design room, which is to support both art and technology education. And this would be a digital design center that would then move a lot of the computers and other things out of Ms. Oswald's current room, which is AR8, right? Is that
Correct, area.
AR, yeah. It would move that out and place that here, which would give her more room for the hands-on components and pieces to lay out in the actual art.
So where would this be located then?
So this would be, if you remember when we took the tour, of Miss Oswald room, she has the computers in the back of the room. Right behind there's the old Bob Gartrock gallery. We would break into there and utilize that as one space that the teacher could supervise both. We would move the technology there and provide more space in AR8 as it is now for the media art, like, your painting and drawing and everything else, and that would be the computer lab behind there.
I have a question just with the coding. I think robotics it's so exciting and so important. And I was listening to Jess Miang talk about like how AI is actually doing so much of the coding now, but like people are going to need to know how to build robots and utilize the AI to. So is that something that will be incorporated in the curriculum? Like I hate to think I know Christina Cosme has the cars that you can code that teach the kids.
This is not built, they build it.
No, I understand, but do you think, forward thinking, that we really need to be teaching kids all of the coding as much as how to use the AI to do the coding and more on the building side? I mean, I think that that's where it's going now. I'm a novice, but I listened to a 3-hour podcast and now I think I'm an expert, but this is, something I think it's very important to put funds behind this. I think this is where the future is, but I just worry that if our tech is behind or what we're teaching is behind on the tech side, then that's not going to benefit.
So
Does that make sense?
It does,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that you're right in terms of doing a combination, but I also think if you're using AI and there's something that goes wrong and that the function doesn't come out the right way, then you need to understand the
Yes.
code on the back end to be able to make those corrections, right? So our
It's almost
students need.
always wrong a couple
Right.
of times. Right?
Correct, right? So it's like right now, the field is not like perfect. So we want our kids to have that foundation so that they can pull apart the code. The second thing is somebody's working for these AI companies that's right, that are helping to make it, feed the code to make it the powerhouse that it is. And then AI.
I think there's going to be a lot less coders, though, is the thing.
Yeah,
So right.
The AI is, but we know that also there are other companies that will require coding that won't just rely on the AI itself, right? So there are other companies out there that will need coding or AI or coders to diagnose issues with their AI platform. So we want those kids to have that. For me and for this program and my vision, and our vision, I think it should also be helping them to understand the functions that they want, right, the robots to do and why, and helping them to extend out and get it to complete the task, and then collect the data, right? Because if we think about like data science, that's a huge field, right? And we want them to be able to create the device that's pulling the data and then extract that data and learn how to interpret it. And I think this is the whole package where they see it from start to finish. And the best, right, engineers know everything from ground up.
You're right. I think that the hands-on component is such an important part. And I could just give an example today. I donated blood. I was up on the stage, and a couple of the robotics kids were there. And they talked about at this Saturday's or Sunday's competition, the robot swung, hit the wall, and their mechanism came off. So they used a clipboard. They cut a clipboard around, like on the spot, to put it together and still continue with the competition. So, right, they need the coding part. It was actually the coding that went wrong that made this happen. But they use their ingenuity on the site with a clipboard to put the part back on and be able to continue with the competition. By the way, they think they're 5. So it was really nice, and you're right, that hands-on, and a lot of these things, sorry, change the slide, is that hands-on, working in the Marine Web Lab, building and doing the work, not just taking the data. There was actually a very good article in this weekend's journal on computer scientists and computer engineers. It's kind of been wavering up and down. Where's the future? one expert says they're going away, one expert says they're gonna be here forever. We shall see, but you're right, they really need that hands-on. My father was in the construction business, and he knew the guys who never touched a hammer, whose drawings those were, and those whose worked with hammers, they knew how to do stuff. You're absolutely right.
Okay, great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just want to thank, as you can see, experience is really what makes Spring Harbor very different than a lot of places. And that really hit home when we had, something we've known, but when we had our freshmen come back and talk to us about their college experiences, they didn't truly realize until they spoke to their friends in other schools. They thought everywhere was like Cold Spring Harbor. And they were like, wow.
They're gonna learn that quick.
Yes. Some in different.
In many different ways.
Right. But the experiences that they've done, that they could talk to, bar none.
No, it's
It
amazing
really makes
how
the
much-
difference, talking about if you're gonna do summer research and you've maintained a wet lab, and that's what you're talking about when you are on your interview, that makes the world of a difference. So I'm very proud of the work Kim has put together, her principals put together with the work we've done over the years, Brianna puts together with our students, our summer interns over the summer with the work that they do. It's real hands-on.
I actually think what Kim said really differentiated the program for me, the wet lab program for me in a way that had never been clearly explained before, where it really is putting our kids in an advantage to have them in a different category too, so that they can shine and build not just their hands-on experience and all this, which is so important, but also to further their careers in science or whatever it may be, to leverage them so they can get into the best programs moving forward too. Makes a lot more sense to put the infrastructure behind it than just because it's cool for kids to, I mean, it is cool, but like it's expensive, and like we kept being like, why is the money? And putting them in a different category really explains that in a new way, so thank you. I also want Kim to give us or give me a class on just how to make a beautiful presentation. I had to make a presentation the other day and I was like,
Where's Kim? She like that.
Where's Kim? She can help me make it so clear and explain everything to me.
When those skills are not being taught in other places, not only are we just, our level is, we're expanding upon them, so it's really separating our kids from the rest. I'm very happy.
All right, we have one more item this evening. Seek motion to approve an engagement letter for Von Schoening and King. May I have first Bill, second Alex. All in favor?